Oh well, I have to say I didn't have the best night of sleep last night, with cats throwing up and cats chasing each other and jumping all over the place and wide variety of stuff like that. Up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, then trying to find something on TV to watch. Then finally fall back to sleep and my one other cat starts going crazy. What a night. But fortunately I'm not working today. That's nice. You know, I've been thinking about the whole expat thing, not just Philippines expats, but the expat experience in general, and lessons that other people can learn from that. I try not to get too much into the personal lives of people, you know, in my own family and stuff here online. But my brother, he's about a year and a half younger than me, 60 years old. He's been going through some crazy stuff. His for a long time, lots of stuff in his life. Just spent so long busting his ass and working, so much stuff going on. Had some rental houses and stuff back in the day. His wife, who's about 7 years older than him, back when their kids were really young, she started having some issues, you know, like some, I don't know, like psychological stuff and everything, you know, and the different things he went through, you know, especially financially, and the way it impacted his plans financially. And in those early years, like, he had a janitorial business. He when he first moved out to Oklahoma after he had married his wife from Pittsburgh, went back out there to Oklahoma and bought this one guy's janitorial business off of him. And he was doing that a lot. You know, after he had his second kid, he decided, well, he'd get a job at the post office, which he did mainly just, you know, all the benefits and everything. And then has a total of 5 kids now. So I've got all the squirrels running around here all over. But for a long time, you know, he was working at the post office. He started out, he was a clerk, then what they called the general clerk, something that you don't really find anymore in post offices. And plus doing his janitorial business, working all the time, you know. And they had some rental houses that they bought. They had this one other big giant house that they bought, and a lot of these things seem like good decisions back at the time, you know. And then you end up with different stuff going on in your family, and, you know, medical issues and things, and the way that ends up impacting your retirement plans and your savings and all of that. And he's got his youngest son, I think, has some issues with schizophrenia and stuff. And so he worries about him, what's going to happen with him. He's had a couple of issues with blood clots. In one case, he had the surgery. Fortunately, he went to the hospital in the small town where they were in Oklahoma. They wanted to put him on a life flight helicopter and fly him to Oklahoma City, which they couldn't do because of the weather. So they put him in an ambulance, got him down to Oklahoma City, did surgery on him that next day, fortunately, or he'd have been dead. It's a good thing that he paid attention to the way he was feeling and went to the emergency room. But he sent me pictures, you know, the clots they took out of his arteries. And yeah, the one doctor was like, man, I've never seen one this big, you know, these clots he had. And some of that, I don't know, but he had a little bit of a clotting issue before one time in his leg and was taking some blood thinners. And this last time, it was back during the COVID stuff. And fortunately he was able to get leave from work, like COVID leave for that, because some of the clotting stuff that can be caused by COVID or the vaccines and different things. He's had hip surgeries and stuff, and so even though he's not the kind of person who talks about things and tries to just say, well, hey, it's not that big a deal, if I die, I die, or this, that, and those things have to weigh on you really bad. But lately, he's just been really feeling down about things, and feeling like how all his plans were, nothing worked out the way he wanted, and regretting the things with his kids, and the fact that even, like when their mom started getting sick, that they never really had a chance to know her before that, and what a hard worker she was and everything, all the stuff she did for them. And then he feels like, well, he should have been there to take up the slack and show them a little more attention when she was having issues, but he was always working. And so now he finds himself, his kids are trying to tell him, well, hey, you should quit when you're 62, retire from the post office. And he's used up the money from his TSP for the most part, and thinks, is my FERS and Social Security going to really be enough? And they try to assure him, yeah, it's going to be fine, and he dropped some of his life insurance he used to have just because it was so expensive. And if he starts taking Social Security when he's 62, I guess then his wife will be able to get more Social Security too. And so even though he would like to hold out longer to get more, she's going to get more. And plus there'd be the survivor benefit if something happened to him and he was already taking it. So he sits around, he's always been a person who calculates all these things, everything to the penny, and very precise and in control of things. And he finds himself in a situation now that a lot of people do. It's just, life happens, and things don't always work out the way we plan. It's great, you see people, I was reading a comment on a YouTube video the other day about someone was like, maybe it was one of my videos, I don't know. Person said that they had been investing in their retirement since they were like 22 years old, and now they were 59. They retired when they were 59 and not looking back. Yeah, it was actually a video I saw about why maybe it's not a great idea to just follow all the YouTubers' advice and retire early, and that's the comment this guy made. And that's what a lot of people would like to do. You think, okay, I'm starting early, I'm going to plan for all this and retire, and things happen in life that you can't plan for. You just can't. And it's easy to look at people and say, oh man, they should have planned better, but no matter how well you plan, there are things that can happen in this world that are just going to tank your plans. That's just how it is. And very little safety net for people, and a lot of people are in a bad situation. But that's what I wanted to tell my brother, is just, that's one thing I've learned from watching some of these YouTube videos with all these expats all over the world, not just the Philippines. A lot of people, they hit 62 and they just say, this is it, I'm done with the rat race. And they discover they have a whole new life, And that's what I wish, I could make my brother see. It's just, you have your plan for things, but the fact that that plan doesn't work out doesn't mean that you don't still have a life. There's a lot of stuff left to do. My brother was talking about this one life insurance policy he still has that it's, I guess the premiums are set until he's like 69 years and 11 months old. And then he was thinking, that because that was part of his one big thing of, he's like, if I die after that, then, he's worried about, what's going to happen with his one younger son, and, who's going to really be there to help him, try to fit in and take care of things. All these worries. And, I just want to tell him, that it might not be a bad idea. Go at 62 and just relax, spend that time with his kids and his grandkids and all of that. And, they can all hang out there, out around Oklahoma City, in that area where some of his kids live, and just start over, kind of like a new beginning. The fact that you get to a certain point where you don't have everything lined out the way you thought it was going to be doesn't mean that you can't have a great life and a long life. My brother has some of these morbid thoughts sometimes. It's like he said, if he had died 4 years ago, his son would have been set for life then, and I'm just, wow, it's easy to get down though and just start thinking about things like that instead of focusing on just staying alive and having a good life now. But when you've got those issues and you've had some health issues and stuff, you start thinking about stuff like that. How long are you going to be around? What's the situation going to be for the people you're leaving behind? His wife is older than he is, and got his younger son that he's worried about. And one thing I've learned from watching some of these videos, all these old guys, or older guys who just chuck it in and ditch the rat race and move overseas somewhere, is that you can start over. And some of those guys, they're starting over in a different place without their family or whatever. Whereas that's not the situation with my brother. He's right there, where he can be right there with his family and all of that. But some of the same lessons apply. We need to remember that we don't know how much time we have left. We can have, just because you're in your 60s doesn't mean you're getting ready to die. You might be around another 20, 30 years. And a lot can happen in that time. You can have a whole new life in those years. It's not going to be the same as when you're younger and have, more capabilities in terms of your health and being able to run around and do all the things that you do as a younger person. But you can have a very fulfilling life. And especially if you've got kids and grandkids and stuff like that, that you can be around. There's still a lot left to live for, And the fact that you have reached what a lot of people would consider to be retirement age doesn't mean that that's it. Your life is over. A lot of people out there in their retirement years who are writing a whole new chapter in their life. And you can look around and see people, famous writers and so forth, who never even became famous writers or anything like that until they were, older, in their 60s, 70s even. And the next thing you know, they're writing best-selling novels and people are making movies out of their stuff, and they're still going strong in their 70s and 80s and 90s. So that's one good lesson you can learn from all these expats who have decided to start a new chapter in their life. They might not have as much money as they thought they would and have to make accommodations for things. Maybe even moving to a different country where their money goes farther. But still, that's the main lesson, is that it's never too late to enjoy your life. And that's the one piece of advice that I would give my brother, just don't be afraid. In his situation especially, he's been at the post office 5 years longer than I have. By the time he's 62, he'll have, I've got 27 years in, so that means he's at 32, He'll have 34 years in, which to me is way more than long enough to work somewhere. I'm glad I didn't start at the post office when I was younger and have to put up with it for that many years. But no reason he can't just retire and enjoy his life. I've seen people before that retired from the post office, and You see them a few months down the road after they've retired, and they look like 10 or 15 years younger. It's just amazing. Once they're not out there running around every day to work and on that schedule and stressing about that. Sure, you don't still have that paycheck coming in that you did before, but getting rid of that stress, especially if you're in a situation where you're just really feeling stressed about things anyways, as long as you've got enough coming in to get by, you need to sometimes just let go of things and surrender control, you know? It's hard for people. Some people, they're just used to always being the one in control and the one that everyone relies on and has to always figure out the solutions for things. And it's very hard for people like that to let go. But when you get into a situation where it just seems like so much, stuff has gone wrong, not the way you planned it, sometimes the best thing you can do is just surrender control and say, screw it, I'm going to enjoy my life. And that can be very liberating. Even from a health point of view, to get rid of that stress and all those worries and to just enjoy things. Especially if, you're a person who spent the last 30, 40 years just working all the time and not really enjoying. Some people get into the habit of that, and it just becomes their default mode where they're not capable of enjoying. They feel like if they take time for themselves and enjoy something, that they're letting everybody down and failing their responsibilities, And, it's just like a couple of comments on my one last video I did. People talking about, the amount of benefits and vacation and stuff that different people get. You look at people in Europe, Scandinavia, some of these different places, they get a lot more vacation time and everything than people do here in America. Here in America, there are people, if they see somebody who has a job like that where they're getting a decent amount of vacation and stuff, they feel like, oh, they're slackers and they're getting something for nothing, and they need to stop being lazy. And even though so many people here in America want to feel like, oh, we're number one and we're the greatest country in the world and everything we do is the right way, there are a lot of other countries where people are statistically happier than they are here. And they might not work all the time and maybe not even make as much money, but they enjoy their life more. And over here, there are too many people who just feel like if I'm not busting ass every single minute of every single day, that I'm some kind of a lazy failure, and there's just something wrong with that. And sooner or later, that can run you into the ground, because we're meant to enjoy life, not just bust our ass for some corporate overlord who's basically just like a new age slave owner, and kill ourselves like that. The rich people in this world, all these corporations and stuff, they've got all these people, the poor people don't have the money, hating each other over stupid shit. Got everybody divided into little groups, little single issue voter groups. Doesn't matter if it's guns or abortion or gay stuff or trans stuff or racial stuff. They keep everyone divided and fighting each other. And they steal from them, basically just bend us all over and rape us. And we're so busy fighting with each other over stupid shit that doesn't matter, while these people just take everything there is, run us into the ground and expect us to work until we die. And if we get sick, no benefits or anything, just die so they don't have to deal with you, even though you're the one who's making things work and keeping their companies running so that they can have all that. But you're supposed to sit around and kiss their ass and thank them for being a job creator and worship them, And that's what life is like here in America, and that's why so many people are sick of it and leaving. There comes a time, even though financial stuff is very important, where you just have to start focusing on enjoying life. And that's hard to do, obviously, when you live in a world where you have to have money to get by. And the worries about that and the stress about it is just a lifelong thing that's built into us. And it's hard for people to let go. It's hard for people to say, no, I'm just going to relax and enjoy my life. They'll just work until they die and think that's what they have to do. Especially if they feel like, well, I need to keep working so my wife can get my life insurance or whatever. It's the same thing with me. You know, my wife is almost 30 years younger than me. It would be easy for me to think, oh, I just have to keep working until I die, keep up my life insurance at work, even though the premiums keep going through the roof the older you get, so that someday when I'm gone, she can be set. Fortunately, my wife does not expect that from me. She wants to go back home to the Philippines and enjoy that more relaxed lifestyle. But some of that stuff, depending on your situation, like with my brother, I think for him, getting out of it when he's 62 years old and enjoying everything he has to enjoy, and 5 kids, I know he feels like the older kids, he didn't really have a chance to connect with them as much. Sometimes there are more important things than working, but once you get used to feeling like you're the one in charge and that everyone's looking to you to keep things going, man, it's hard to let go. And I think that's the one lesson we can learn from all these different expats who have just let go. There can be a whole new life and be a change for the better. And that doesn't just apply to people who are leaving and going off to live in another country. There are lessons that we can all learn from that. Even if you're staying right where you are. The rat race is just killing people. And getting out of it, you stay in the rat race, maybe you will be dead when you're 70. You get out of it, who knows? Maybe you'll still be kicking when you're 90. And finding out what you're really here for. Because this shit here, where we're all just running on the treadmill and working to make a little bit of money and then getting thrown out on the trash heap if we become too expensive for our overlords, that's not what life's about. And people are so busy fighting each other over stupid, silly shit that they're just not capable of recognizing it. You get some of these people who are really into guns and shit, sitting around with their AR-15, think, I'm free. I live in the land of the free. This is the greatest country ever. They can't afford to go to the doctor or get their teeth fixed, but at least they're free. They're not like those horrible, evil socialists everywhere else in the world. Stuff like that, People just use all this stuff to divide us. And I don't know, it'd be nice to think that we could all be smart enough to stand up and say that we deserve what we deserve. But people have been brainwashed for centuries by religions and so forth to feel like suffering now is some kind of a great thing and they're going to be rewarded for it later, Suffer now, let the rich people have what they've got, and you'll be rewarded in heaven someday for suffering for your whole life. Sooner or later, we have to advance enough as a species to realize that that's all a bunch of bullshit, and that we need to enjoy life while we're here, instead of letting people control us by telling us that our suffering is some kind of noble thing. Anyways, my thoughts for that morning.